Okay, so I'm here with Fiona Leona, who is a self development influencer and who posts a lot on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And so I'll link all her handles in the description. So basically, she's here and we're going to go through a few questions and interview her because we both are in the self development community and want to inspire you guys. So,
Thanks for
um,
having me.
yeah. So, okay, the first question is we're starting off strong. How did your childhood shape you?
Okay. Well, I feel like my childhood was not a very traditional one. I moved around a lot. My parents got divorced very early. So then, kind of like being first gen, you are kind of forced to become an adult a lot sooner than you want to be. So I've been reading books about like emotionally like immature parents and how that shapes you as an adult. And I think because I had so many responsibilities of like helping my little brother go to school, and then we moved from like the UK to the US, there's so many changes that made me become somebody that was like really easily adaptable, which I used to take pride in. But I think because I adapted so quickly, I started to lose who I was, and I that really started to contribute to like my identity crisis as an adult. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like because of all those changes and because things were so rushed to grow up, it really affected who I was later on in life.
Okay. Okay. How did it affect you? Um, if you want to go into that, you don't have to.
Yeah, sorry, I like literally forgot what the
Sorry, I'm
first
going off the
question
questions a little bit.
was. Okay, hold on, let me pull up the questions at the same time because I'm like, wait.
Okay.
Um, how did that affect me? So I think as like, I guess when we're talking about race and everything, I grew up so in England. I didn't really think I was any different because of where I grew up, because everyone was a different race. There were Black people, there were Indians. There wasn't anyone that I like felt out of place. It wasn't until I like moved to the US where I lived more so in like predominantly neighborhoods that were white or Black, and I didn't see anyone else that looked like me. And also at the time I had a British accent, so I was like really like not what they like, you an Asian person with a British accent, like it just doesn't make sense. And so um I started losing my accent like a year in when we moved to the US, and then I started like wanting to be like a different race because I just felt like I wasn't attractive, or I didn't feel like I fit in, or I didn't have anyone to look up to that looked like me, and it almost like makes you like not like yourself. So I started kind of, I guess like the political right term is like having like some sort of like internal like racism to myself because I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin.
Okay. Okay. And what do you think was the turning point, the point where you knew you had to change, where you kind of found yourself, you would think?
I would say like in my early 20s, around like 24, like COVID was happening, and I was still like dealing with like depression. I hadn't really dealt with it. I wasn't a big fan of like therapy at the time, so I avoided that really. And I think because of COVID and how like isolated everybody was at the time, it like really forced me to like sit in my own thoughts and feelings, because prior to that, I think I was just always on the go. Like I graduated high school early, I graduated college early, I started my job, I went to travel nursing. I was just like nonstop doing stuff. And I think I was just like avoiding any quiet time to like sit in my thoughts until COVID like forced you to like do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I just felt like I was having like really like suicidal thoughts at that time because I just really wasn't getting along with my mom. I also like didn't know what I wanted to do with my job. I didn't love nursing at the time. And then it really made me sit there and think that like, what do I need to do to change? And I started doing therapy, and I that's kind of when it started changing.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you have any like big mindset? Wow, that is not a word. Mindset shifts that like things that you realized kind of to make you have this big turning point. Like you realized you were enough or something like that.
So I think the if you're like good enough, it which takes a long time actually. So I think in the last like 2 years I finally have gotten there, and even like this year I finally like really solidified myself. I think it's a weird, I'm trying to think of the word. It's hard to navigate through your 20s when you don't have a support system or you don't have public figures that make you feel motivated or inspired um, to really like push you to grow. And so when you stay in your community and your friend groups and you don't explore other places, it really confines you to what you know. It wasn't until I started traveling more, and I've moved a lot, but really traveling on my own, like solo traveling and meeting people of different backgrounds and knowing that I could do things on my own was when I started becoming more confident with who I was and being without my friends. I think when you're growing up, a lot of your friendships is your identity. So during those stages of your 20s, going through friendship breakups and then wondering like, is it me? Am I the problem or is it them? And just trying to figure out like what has gone wrong or has changed. And the reality is that once you get older and you start to get to know yourself and like who you actually are, you might realize that maybe you were never aligned with those friendships to begin with, which was a lot of who I was made up of the friends I was with, but it wasn't particularly who I was. So I started losing a lot of them. And then you start to discover that they don't like who you actually are. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was kind of like the mind shift change there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I feel like it's really cool to hear it from this perspective because I'm just turning 19, so I'm like just entering that stage into like my 20s kind of thing. So like it's cool to hear from like, because I know you said you're around 30 or something. I watched that on one of your podcasts or something. You said that. So I think it's cool to see it like on the other side, kind of.
Yeah, what's your experience been at like 19? Like, have you seen a shift at all in your friendship since you graduated high school?
So I am very, very, very newly graduated. I graduated 3 months ago, and then we moved across the United States. So I think it has been different in the way that like I haven't had this much time to spend alone by myself, kind of thing. And then I think I got really like I noticed kind of like my own passions and like what I wanted to do and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, now I don't have like friends distracting me and stuff like this. So now I can finally like go and I can do that stuff. So yeah.
Have you like noticed that, or have you gotten your feelings hurt that maybe like some people are not keeping up with you as much as you thought they would after school since you've moved?
I think honestly, like the people who I know are like my soulmate friends kind of things and who like I always know and I always said I would keep in touch with, we still are very much in touch and we have like a weekly FaceTime call to keep in touch. I've never had like a hard time dealing with friendships kind of going in and out of my life because I've always had like at least like two solid friends that are always there for me, so I don't think I've dealt with that super hard, or maybe it just hasn't hit me yet. But yeah, I feel like it definitely is different because I am spending time alone, which I think is a good thing, but it's good to have friends that support you as well, I think.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, okay. And then what got you into content creation, and are you still working full-time outside of that?
Yeah, so I am still working full time. The reason I got into creating content was it was actually because I FaceTime my friends all the time and they just think I'm so funny, which I don't know why. I'm just confused. So I worked remote for like 4.5 years. I was working in sales, and prior to that I was a nurse. So when I was working remote, how did I even get into it? I'm trying to think. We were just like joking around, and I was like, at the time, it was always like so embarrassing to be like, I'm watching TikToks because it just had like such a cringe connotation around it, especially like for my age group. They're like, what are you doing on the app where everyone's just dancing on the internet? And I'm like, I can't tell people this is from TikTok or whatever. So I would just like have it as a little secret. And then my friends just thought it was so funny. I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'll just like post some TikToks if like nothing comes out of it. Like, it's whatever. But then I was like, I can't be funny all the time. Like, this is so hard. Like, I have nothing to say. Like, how do people like how are comedians on these things? Like, I can't do that. But what it turned into was, so I had just gone through a breakup that year, and it was like one of the hardest breakups I've ever had in my life. Like, I would say, like, that's the person I thought I wanted to marry, and then later on you're like, actually maybe it's not. So you're more so like grieving the loss of the future that you thought you had. And it was just like a whole year where I just had to figure out like what I wanted, and did I make a mistake from doing that. So posting on TikTok started kind of being like my therapeutic outlet. Like, it almost became like my digital diary without me doing it on purpose. And I just kind of like started, because at the time I feel like my friends were, you're in that stage of life where people are either getting engaged or getting married or having kids. So they used to be available back and call if I needed to call them, but now I had to like schedule things out because they were busy, preoccupied with other people. So I kind of felt like things were a lot more quiet, or I couldn't, like, if I needed someone, I just couldn't call because they wouldn't pick up right away like they used to, because now they're busy. And so I turned to like TikTok at that point to just kind of ask like, hey, is anyone else going through this? And so then I started building like a community around that, and I like didn't realize how healing it was for me and then for other people. And I just kind of kept doing it for a little bit. And then after the year point, I was like, should I keep doing this? Is this stupid? And then the Tamron Hall show reached out to me when I made one about like feeling lonely, which I had like never said out loud before. And that was like, I was like, oh, this must be like a sign from the universe, because I like asked like, hey, like, what's the point of me like still doing this at this point? Like, so then after that, I continued to do that. And at this point, I just feel like I've helped so many people that I enjoy it, but there's also some like downsides to it, which makes me like wonder, like, it would be different if I was doing it full time, but it's just not there for like an income for me to make it a full-time job. So it is difficult to do that, especially when you're working.
Yeah, I was also going to ask how you balance the two, because I know a lot of people are either full-time influencers or they're full-time working, and you're doing both, which seems like a lot.
Yeah, so I'm doing, thankfully, like my job right now, I got back into nursing, is a lot less stressful than when I was working in sales, which has allowed me to do that. And also I'm in like my quiet year because I was living in Miami, but now I live in Charleston, where I like purposely knew that I wasn't going to do anything like crazy or get preoccupied with other things. So I've been dedicating time to this. But I did recently like sign on with like an influencer agency, but I actually just terminated my contract yesterday because I just like, they were really lovely and they're great, but it was just so tied to like, oh, let's do this concept, or like, let's do that, let's like get more brand visibility, let's bring more products. And it just felt really stressful. Plus working, and it's like I can't produce that amount of quality content while working. Like, it's understandable if you had somebody that was just doing it for their 9 to 5, which is fine, it makes sense, like that's your job. Doing it after work was like a lot, and I just felt like sometimes you, like, I always say like don't use like external validations, but it's hard when you are a content creator, and a lot of how working with companies is tied to likes and engagements and comments, to not feel bad about yourself, especially when things are not going in the direction that you normally are going into. And people are like, oh, it's just the algorithm. But if that's how you're supposed to like produce your income, it's hard not to deviate away from feeling like your worth is tied to numbers. And so I was sitting here wondering like why I felt so like burnt out the last few weeks. And I think it's just this pressure that I had from joining that agency, because it was like a trial period. And it's like, oh, like depending on how you like perform in those 3 months, like we'll sign you on full time. And I was just like, this is like too much pressure. Like, I don't even know what my thing is, like my repetitive thing, because I'm so like ADD that like I can't pick one format and stick to it. Like, I don't know why. I just can't do it. And they're like, you need to. And I'm like, I can't. And so I just was like, okay, let me figure out what it is. And I pinpointed, like, I think that was the added on stress. Plus I'm like doing another job on top of all my jobs. So wow. I feel I am just exhausted. So I needed to take one thing off the plate for right now.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. That like props to you, because that sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
And then another question: how do you deal with your self-doubt and imposter syndrome? Like, because these platforms are so big. Like, do you get the like imposter syndrome?
So I had a pseudo username forever on TikTok. It wasn't even my name.
Okay.
Like, it was, you know how you spell life with Lyfe?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let me think of like Life of Fifi, but I literally spelt it in like the opposite way that I would have ever spelt it. So, but as I grew, like people were like, oh, like mention this code whenever you do this ad. And I'm like, I don't even know how to pronounce my username.
Oh
So
my
then
gosh.
I got, let me change it. So then I eventually like had it to my first and last name, but then I started getting kind of a little uncomfortable because there's some guy on TikTok who like helps people with resumes or whatever, like found a video which was like super inappropriate, then like tied it to my LinkedIn and like all this stuff, and I had to like ask him to take it down, but I just felt like that was like an invasion of privacy. And he like started the video with like, this girl like just got laid off and she got really depressed, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is all over LinkedIn, like this is insane, like no, like it wasn't you know. So then I started getting like uncomfortable with like that. As much as like my life is out there, it's also not, because I get to pick and choose what I want to be out there. So when people like go out of their way to like dig up like my actual personal life, it makes me uncomfortable.
That's understandable.
Especially like if you haven't made it there, because then like employers do look at your social media, and I just did not want that to cross my line with like my professional life. So but anyways, what you were talking about, like self-doubt, I think as far as self-doubt, I like comes in waves. I feel like you can't just get rid of the self-doubt. Usually I have to have like some sort of like pep talk with like a friend. Like my talent manager is really good about that when we would meet every 2 weeks, but like just talking to my friends about it. And sometimes you have to just like kind of walk away. I've been like making less and less videos the last month or two because I just like don't know, I'm in a funk.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to, I think it also depends on the person. You get like inspired by your environment. So if your environment isn't motivating you, or it's not making you learn something new, or you're not excited about something, I think it does dictate how you feel about yourself. And so like being back in Charleston, like kind of where I grew up, it feels like a old representation of who I was, and it feels like very suffocating. And so that's why have been in like a little self-doubt mindset, because it doesn't feel motivating, because I'm like, oh, like I'm back here. Not to say it's like a bad thing, because it's a really pretty place to be, but it's just representing who I'm not anymore. So I'm excited to move soon. So I think sometimes if you are in a down like self-doubt moment, is just find a new environment, travel, do something that's out of your comfort zone, because when you feel safe, sometimes that safety is the actual thing that's making you feel unsafe in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. And I know you've moved a lot. You moved to a lot of different cities. Was that kind of your escape to get to new environments?
So I moved my whole life when I was younger, and I was like, I'm not doing that when I'm older. And I tell my mom all the time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm reliving your life. I'm like, oh my, like the thing I said I wasn't going to do, I'm doing. All of it wasn't on purpose, honestly, but I would say like California, like I always wanted to live in California, and then COVID happened. And so then I couldn't continue my travel nursing, and I was like, what am I going to do? And everything was like shut down. So I was like, okay, let me move back to the South, to Charleston. But then I'm like, sorry, there's like so many moving, because I moved back to LA. I think it just depends on the environment. Like I had no intentions of moving this many times. I think that like once I felt like I've ran my course at one place, it's once you've done it enough times, it feels like, I don't know, I just follow my gut. There's like no valid reason other than like I just wanted to do it. Like
that's
when I moved like when I moved to Denver, is because I went through my breakup, but I like didn't want to like be in a toxic on and off relationship. So I was like, I need to go to another state.
There you go.
And I go, I wanted to hike and be outdoors. I go, Colorado sounds great.
That's where I am.
You should definitely go learn how to snowboard or ski. I was like,
I just had someone say that to me yesterday.
oh my God, you do. It is, because you don't need people to go with, and it is the most therapeutic thing ever. And even though I like didn't love like the people, I don't want to say like I didn't like the people in Denver. They're just like not my like vibe. I don't know how to describe it.
I understand. You have like a gut feeling towards people.
Yeah, or no, they're just not like who, like, because the way if I said it the right, like, it sounds wrong, but I just like didn't feel like I vibed with people in Denver as much as I vibed with different places. But even though that was the case, like I still felt really inspired by my environment there. Like there was just so many cool things to do and see, and I like had so many hobbies. Like I started biking and like got a helmet and did the whole thing, and I was like, what am I doing? But there's like so many activities you can do there. So I would definitely recommend snowboarding or skiing. I prefer snowboarding. I tried both. I liked snowboarding more.
Okay. I've heard snowboarding is harder than skiing.
Everyone says that, but I don't think that.
Okay. Okay, good to know.
Like I went up like 30 times my first season and I got it down. Like
hey.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Awesome.
And you just like don't think about being on your phone at all. Like it's just you and nature, and it's the best time.
Mm-hmm. I have skied a little bit in Pennsylvania, but those slopes are nothing compared to the ones here, because these are like supposed to be the best ones in America. Ours were, we didn't get much snow, and if it was snow, it was like ice. So yeah. It was like icy going down like hills, like they weren't even mountains. So I think here will be a different experience.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to start doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely excited. Is that all you had to say about your self-doubt? Is there more? Because I kind of interrupted you.
I don't know. If you want to have any more fun, I don't even know where I was going with that. Sometimes I talk and I'm like, what was the question?
Okay. I guess we'll end with the last question. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I feel like I have so many pieces of advice, but I would say do things that you actually want to do, regardless of what your parents say or what your friends say, because if you don't, you'll spend your whole life trying to do the thing that you wanted to do your whole life, but because you wanted to fit in and follow the status quo, you just went ahead and did what others tells you to do. So I think it's very important to like follow your passions or your dreams, because if there's a will, there's a way, and eventually it will work out, even though it doesn't make sense and it might be really difficult. You should still do it. And I say that because prior to making TikToks, I used to like make YouTubes when I was like super young, and I loved it. But you know, as you become an adult, you're like, my mom was like, I don't think you can make money off of that. Like, you need to pick a real job. I was like, okay. So then I stopped doing it. And here we are, like full circle as I'm doing it still. So I think at some point it will come back. And if you don't pursue it, you're going to get really unhappy. So you should just do the things that you like. And if you have to block people so you don't feel like you're judged, because it's not about like some stranger that's following you. It's like some person from your high school that you're worried about. Yeah. Like, what is Joe gonna think of this video if he sees it? What if I crush? Like, that's literally like why I didn't post on Instagram for so long. I was like, the people I used to have crushes on, like they're gonna think I'm weird.
I know, because I've wanted to start posting on Instagram, but that has been my exact fear. So that like that's good to know I'm not alone in that.
Yeah. So I don't know if this comes up on your For You page, but it's like successful people do not feel embarrassed about anything that they do, because when you're surrounded by other successful people, they're not going to make you feel bad or cringe for anything that you do. It's just the people that you think like your friends or whatever. It's more often than not, I feel like I've had a lot of people that I was surprised that reached out to me from like my high school, my college, being like, I'm so glad you posted that. And I was shocked because I was like thinking otherwise. your own, no one's paying it that close of attention to you as much as you think they are. You know, like you trip and fall or do something like embarrassing, like you're the only person that's rerunning it. And if you ask somebody else who saw you, they probably already forgot that
Yeah.
happened to you.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So
That's good.
post, like especially if you're like 19, like just do it for me because I like had all these YouTube videos that I deleted when I was younger because I was like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah,
Here's what they think. It's fine.
yeah, I used to post when I was like 12. Me and my twin sister had like a YouTube channel and I loved it. It was like my favorite thing. And now since I've moved across the country and stuff, I'm like, might as well just start over again and like actually try to do it this time.
Yeah, you should. And if you need to like block people to make yourself feel more comfortable, like that's totally fine too. Like it doesn't matter.
Oh, I probably
And
will.
when they are going to talk about you, it's just like kind of sad to think that you preoccupy their mind so much with like they have, is that all they could do with their day? Like there's nothing more important than like talking about you. Like flattered at the same time that you're the topic of discussion.
Yeah, there you go. Is there any last pieces of advice you would give, or is that all?
Mm, I think that's it. Do you have any
Okay.
other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day for doing this. This was really like inspiring and cool to listen to.